Here we are, back in the budget home studio. Just thought we'd have a bit of a catch up. Managed to get hold of Cayenne Pepper. Nobody's around the house, just me. Put 6 drops in a whiskey shot glass of distilled water. Wouldn't recommend you do it straight off, it's a bit of an acquired taste. Having something in your mouth which is as hot as lava. And once you do this, there's no turning back. You can't very well cool yourself down with water, but a little bit of apple, slice of apple, quite useful, just to take some of the heat out of the cayenne. And so I'm going to just do that, just have a little slice. Haven't had any water any cayenne lately, should I say. Just haven't sort of felt the need for it. But today I just felt tired, and I've been busy. I've actually put a casserole in the oven so that the family has something to eat in the next few hours. Then they start flying in to the calf along with the birds. Anyway, actually I don't need to have this, but I'll just have a little bit now anyway. Just a little bit of fruit, a little bit of apple to go with Dr. Christopher's cayenne extract, concentrated cayenne pepper. I think actually powdered form might be the best way to take it. Not sure, I've done both. I also got it in capsules. But it has a relationship with the reaction in your mouth and then what goes to your stomach. And so all of the research that I've done shows that really the mouth has to actually receive the cayenne and actually recognise it for what it is. Then sends a message to the brain in your stomach, look out, something's coming, along with saliva. And I think it actually is very beneficial from what I can, I've done a bit of research and I've been using it for about 7 years. By the way, this is one of my best t-shirts. What it says there is Roughneck Soldier Recordings, which was a recording label that I helped my son set up. I don't think it hasn't paid any dividends yet, but I've still got the t-shirt. It was quite an expensive one, by the way, because I contributed massively to what he was doing in the music industry when he first started off. Anyway, just want to have a bit of a chat about what's been happening. Of course, the world's a very busy place. I watched a video conversation between Peter Berger, the sociologist, and some students of sociology. He also had quite a profound influence on Os Guinness, who's another sociologist and Christian apologist who I have followed over the years since I met him way back in 1976 in London, long time ago, and had quite a wonderful time actually, going around various religious communities and investigating what they were up to. Peter Berger, I think, is well worth listening to. He's very accessible. He writes blogs and you can get him on YouTube. It's really great that we can have access to these thinking people, and I think there's no question about it. Peter Berger is one of the more profound thinkers of our time, and particularly outstanding in his discipline of sociology. He's done a lot of work on the charismatic movement with some of his associates in relationship to what's happening with globalization. So yeah, I think you've got to go and actually have a listen and look for yourself. Don't need me to make commentary about Peter Berger, or for that matter Os Guinness, who had a very interesting friend on with him on YouTube. And actually the rubber was hitting the road in quite an interesting way, because, you know, communities and churches and all the rest of it, everything's come under challenge. Communities and families don't function like they used to. And we've got, you know, ourselves some quite serious problems, because we're dealing with a re-engineered society, really. The old values are broken down and people don't live the way they used to. Mind you, I have to say, under the nuclear family and with the Judeo-Christian influence, there was a lot of misery in families. You know, people stayed together even though they hated one another, so-called because they were doing, you know, this for the so-called benefit of the children. So I got a lot of mixed feelings about the changes and the alarms, or the alarm bells that are ringing over these changes. I think some of it's actually not that bad. However, you've got to have a moral compass no matter what. And a moral compass that operates in an arbitrary manner is as good as not having one. The Cayenne Pepper is starting to actually have a bit of an impact on me, so I'm going to have another slice of apple. But I have to say, the wonderful thing also about YouTube, because it's a massive search engine now. So not only can we communicate, and when I just get to the point where I can't be bothered, you know, with attempt to even think about talking to the popular media, you know, this is just so wonderful where you've got a tool like YouTube or Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, of which I have a Twitter account. Don't use it that much. I do find myself doing a lot of posts on Facebook, but I really like YouTube because, you know, it's immediate, visual and all the rest of it. And behind the words you can see a face and an expression and somebody saying something, which is actually, you know, you can Twitter all you like and send emails and say offensive things. You don't have to actually look anybody in the face. One of the things I'm actually quite proud of is that I've always been prepared to front people face to face. You know, actually, well, when I say that, I mean, I show who I am. I don't have a false name. I've always called myself who I really am, my given name. And I actually like this, you know, eyeball to eyeball stuff. No, I think it's just wonderful that you can hear somebody saying, and actually, you know, from time to time people actually con us. I mean, you know, I've met them on YouTube where they've actually just been telling big porkies, you know, fanciful stories, and you end up getting sort of sucked into it. But if you want to actually ask the right questions, you will actually get answers. And if you ask honest questions, there's still enough people out there who follow Socrates and say, you know, well, if there's somebody out there who's asking honest questions, there's bound to be someone who wants to give you an honest answer. And actually, I actually think you can actually have that dialogue, believe it or not, by actually just reading the Bible. I mean, it is just absolutely amazing how much honesty you can get in your quest to find answers if you actually just read the Bible. Just incredible. And I know there's a lot of opposition to it, and, you know, I think Os Guinness and his friend were talking about how, you know, if you're going to actually put yourself out there and take a position, hold a moral compass, there'll be opposition. It's just the way we are. I actually found it interesting. I went into my local bicycle shop and I discovered that the owner of his bicycle shop is actually a Christian. And he was actually taking quite a lot of flack from his staff while he was having a conversation with me, one of his customers. And I was rather intrigued about the way he was handling it. I really was very intrigued because actually he took it quite well. I mean, what are you going to say anyway if you've got staff working for you? I don't like what you're saying, you're fired. No, of course he wouldn't do that. He couldn't do that. But I have to say to you that I was just so actually taken with the way that he just didn't get ruffled. You know, I'd been to see that stupid damn film Noah with Russell Crowe. And of course Noah is not true to the biblical account in Genesis. You know, it's just complete nonsense. Absolutely so far away. No wonder the Pope, God bless him, didn't want to endorse it. But I gotta say, it got me into thinking about a few issues, and I came back to my home and I Googled the Book of Enoch. And it's for the first time I was actually seriously confronted with some of the things that Enoch had actually written. And it filled in so many gaps. Look, I highly recommend, you know, the church fathers didn't want to include it, fair enough. But it's got so much in it, the Book of Enoch. There's so much information that and also I find it fascinating that the first century church was quite happy to actually read and discuss the Book of Enoch. They didn't feel threatened by it. And I find that fascinating, that it was in quite wide currency, had quite wide currency at that time, particularly amongst the Eastern Orthodox. And I do have a certain amount of, yeah, I am in support of their thinking about the nature of the Trinity. Of course, if you're not interested in theology or the Judeo-Christian worldview, well, this won't be of much interest to you. But actually, you know, the Book of Enoch is fascinating. There's a whole hierarchy out there, and it talks about angels and the hierarchy of angels and the relationship between some of those very interesting early characters that are described in the Torah, in the books that Moses gave to Israel, and actually to a lot of what is talked about in both the Old and New Testament that make up the Bible as we know it. Anyway, I'm going to finish this bit of apple and just say, you know, just wanted to have this little catch up. Yeah, Peter Berger and Os Guinness are two people that are really interesting to listen to. They're great speakers. Os Guinness in particular, a very eloquent man, actually can do a complete lecture without looking at notes. And I mean, I am quite impressed with that. Just the ability to do that anyway. Okay, over and out. We'll see you again soon.